I bought my parents a $425,000 lakeside cabin for their 50th anniversary. When I got there, my mother was weeping, and my father looked shattered. My brother's family had claimed it. He strode toward my dad, gestured to the porch, and shouted, "This is our house now. Get out." My sister-in-law smirked until I stepped through the door, and the shouting stopped. My name is Sophia. I'm 38. The older child. The one who handles things. I'm a corporate lawyer. I live out of a meticulously organized closet and a briefcase full of pending acquisitions. I track my existence in 6-minute increments and deposition schedules. I don't sleep much. I run before the sun comes up. I save nearly everything I earn because I was raised on the sound of declined credit cards and the phrase, "maybe next paycheck." I was the kid who learned to read foreclosure notices before I could read chapter books. "It's going to be okay," I'd say, at 9 years old. While my dad stared at a shut-off warning, I learned the texture of adult fear and the logistics of crisis. I learned to be the solution. 3 weeks ago, my parents celebrated 50 years of marriage. I wanted them to have one. Un diablo win. A place where the air smelled like pine and water. Where the floors were solid. And nothing reminded them of payday loans or pawnshop receipts. I found a small A-frame cabin tucked into the woods by a lake. A little rustic. Yes. But solid. A wide stone fireplace. A screened-in porch. And huge windows that framed the water like a painting. $425,000. I closed the deal in their names. Arranged for the utilities. Filled the pantry. And left a bottle of their favorite wine on the counter with a note. For quiet evenings and loud card games. I love you. I told no one else. Especially not my brother, Leo. On the day, I drove up with a cheesecake and a thermos of good coffee. The lake was still as glass. The sky that brilliant. Almost aggressive blue. And I felt a dangerous amount of joy. I pulled into the gravel driveway and saw a minivan I knew all too well parked by the steps. That wasn't possible. The front door was propped open. The screen door was unlatched. I walked inside. My mother stood in the kitchen, twisting a tea towel in her hands as if she were trying to wring the truth out of it. Her face was blotchy. My father was slumped in an armchair, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. Surrounded by duffel bags and scattered toys. A cartoon was screaming from a tablet in the corner. Then he appeared. My brother, Leo. Wearing athletic shorts and a smug expression. He planted himself in front of our father, jabbed a thumb toward the porch, and shouted, "This is our house now. Get out." From the sofa, my sister-in-law, Chloe, added, "Don't be so dramatic. Dad, we're just moving in." The cardboard cheesecake box in my hands felt flimsy. Pathetic. A part of my mind went cold and silent. The way it does, right before a hostile takeover negotiation. I should give you the context before I explain how I dismantled their entire lives in the next hour. Leo is 3 years younger. In our family, he was the creative one. Which became the one with potential. Which became the one who was just having a bad run of luck. My parents did what they always did. They enabled. They excused. They absorbed the cost. I did what I always did. I paid for it. First, it was covering his rent just this once. Then it was funding a coding boot camp that he quit after 6 weeks. Then it was a down payment on a car for his family. Just to get the kids to school. When his business idea, some app that was supposed to revolutionize dog walking, inevitably collapsed, it landed squarely on my Amex. I paid for my nephew's braces. I paid to get their car out of impound. I co-signed on an apartment lease after their 3rd eviction. My bank transfer history reads like a diary of his failures. Leo, groceries. Chloe, electric bill. Leo, interview suit. Each payment felt like a stopgap. A way to keep our family from splintering under the weight of his irresponsibility. I was wrong. My parents contributed in smaller, more heartbreaking ways. Mom would deliver bags of groceries and call it sharing a sale, she found. Dad would let Leo borrow tools that never came back. Or try to teach him repairs that ended up costing me twice as much to have a professional fix. The family mantra never wavered. You know how your brother is. Not everyone is built like you. Sophia. You were born 40. While I was in law school, I lived on instant noodles and worked 3 jobs. Sending money home from a library computer at 2 in the morning because their power was about to be cut off. At some point, I stopped being a sister and became a line of credit. When I found the cabin, I structured the purchase like a fortress. I put the deed into an irrevocable trust. With my parents, Anna and David, as the sole lifetime beneficiaries. I created a separate account to pay the property taxes for the next 2 decades. I paid the homeowners association fees 5 years in advance. I changed all the locks. And when I held the new keys, they felt like the first real exhale of my adult life. I told Mom and Dad about it a week before their anniversary. We drove up together. Dad ran his hand over the wooden mantelpiece, as if it were a sacred object. Mom opened and closed the kitchen drawers. Just breathing. We sat on the porch and watched a family of ducks swim by. I said, "It's all yours. Forever." Dad's eyes welled up. And he couldn't speak. Mom just whispered, "It smells like safety." I stayed the first night on the couch to make sure the heat worked properly. It did. The next morning, I drove back to the city to finalize a 7-figure merger. The cabin and my parents were safe. But systems of dysfunction hate a vacuum. Leo called Mom on day 2. "Where are you? That picture you posted looks nice." Mom, "A terrible liar," said. "Oh, just visiting an old friend from work." By that evening, Chloe had used the metadata from a photo Mom posted on Facebook, a picture of a sunset over the lake, to pinpoint the exact address. They arrived the next morning with their 2 kids. A mountain of luggage. And an aura of entitlement so thick you could choke on it. Mom called me later. Her voice, a tiny thread. They just wanted to see it. "Honey, now they're saying they'll stay for the weekend. To help us settle in. Is that all right?" "Mom, it's not a hotel," I said, my stomach tightening. "We'll figure it out when you come up," she said. Which was her code for, "Please come fix this." By Saturday morning, the invasion was complete. My father sent me a text. "Sophia, there is some confusion. Leo keeps talking about this being a family asset. Can you please call?" Then his phone went straight to voicemail. Then came the Instagram post from Chloe, a picture of her and Leo on the porch, holding coffee mugs. Captioned, "The new family getaway. So blessed to have a place for the kids to make memories." The comments poured in. "You deserve it," manifesting this. My jaw locked. I texted Dad on my way out of the city. "Don't sign a single thing. Don't agree to anything. I'm on my way." I spent the 3-hour drive rehearsing calm, constructive phrases. We need to establish rules. This requires a conversation about boundaries. I was an idiot. I walked into a war zone. Leo's voice was already booming. "You 2 are getting older. The stairs are a hazard. It's too much upkeep. We're young. We can handle it. We'll manage the property for you." My mother tried to interject. "But Sophia gave this to us. She gave it to times you asterisk." Leo cut her off. "And you're giving it to times us asterisk. It's all in the family." Chloe, lounging on the couch as if she owned it, added with a sickly sweet smile, "Don't be difficult. Anna, we're already thinking about renting it out for the summer. It'll be a great income stream for all of us." Asterisk, renting it out. Asterisk, Leo waved a hand at the lake. "Prime season is coming up. We listed it this morning. We can make a killing." I looked at my father. His hands were shaking. That telltale tremor of rage he tries so hard to suppress. This was the man who worked 16-hour shifts at a factory so I could have debate club fees and Leo could have guitar lessons. He was being erased in his own home. My entire upbringing was based on the principle be useful, not disruptive. But my father's text was a distress call. And my brother's voice was the sound of a home invasion. I placed the cheesecake on the counter. A ridiculous symbol of peace in a room full of thieves. My voice, when it emerged, was devoid of heat. It was the voice I use in a boardroom. "Leo, who gave you permission to list this house?" He rolled his eyes. "Don't be like that. Soph. Family property is family property. We're all in this together." Chloe chimed in. Her voice, a sing-song taunt. "We're not times asking asterisk. Sophia, we're just letting you know the plan." My mother's face was a mask of pleading. "Sophia, please. Can we just talk about this calmly?" Leo pointed at our father again. "He can talk about it from the guest room. Or better yet, from his old apartment." Chloe giggled. "Oh. Babe. Be nice. Dad knows we love him. My father's jaw was working. But no words came out. Something inside me didn't just snap, it clarified. Everyone in the living room. Now, I said. It wasn't a shout. It was a command. The kids looked up from their tablet. Chloe's smirk faltered. Leo scoffed but moved. Because bullies always assume they're being called to the center stage they deserve. I stood by the stone fireplace. I could feel my own pulse. Slow and steady. I opened my briefcase and laid 4 documents on the coffee table. The deed, I said, tapping the first one. Recorded with the county last Tuesday. The property is owned by the Anna and David Family Trust. Lifetime beneficiaries are parents. With, and I quote, exclusive and indisputable right of occupancy. I can. Leo squinted. What does that even mean in English? In English, I said, my voice dropping. It means you don't even have a right to a key, let alone the right to move in. He laughed. A short, ugly sound. Try and stop me. I tapped the second page. The trust instrument. As successor trustee, it is my fiduciary duty to protect the assets of the trust and the well-being of its beneficiaries. That duty includes the legal obligation to remove any individual who threatens or destabilizes their peaceful enjoyment of the property. Chloe's tone became venomously sweet. Sophia, you're being ridiculous. We're his family. I slid the third document forward. It was a high-resolution color printout of the rental listing he'd posted. The listing. Posted this morning. Using photos of a home you do not own. The description reads, entière cabine available. The house rules state. No owner on site. And the payout is directed to a bank account ending in 4 digits that match yours. Leo. He shifted his weight. So what? They could use the money. And this? I said, placing the final document on the table. It was a copy of the Homeowners Association bylaws, with one clause highlighted in yellow. Article 7. Section B. No rentals, leases, or temporary occupancies of less than 6 months. It's a violation that carries a $10,000 fine and potential legal action from the association. I leaned forward, my hands flat on the table. Here is what is going to happen now. You are going to take down the listing. You are going to pack your bags. You are going to apologize to Mom and Dad for terrorizing them in their own home. And then you are going to get out. Chloe let out a Highland, theatrical laugh. Or what? Sophia, are you going to sue us? No, I said. I'm going to perform my duty as trustee. I took a step toward my brother. His bravado was starting to crack. He puffed out his chest. Don't threaten me. My mom whispered. Kids. Please. I don't make threats. Leo. I execute strategy. I placed my phone face up on the coffee table. The screen showed a drafted email. The recipient was the head of the HOA board. Attached were the trust documents and a link to the illegal rental listing. A second drafted email was to the rental platform's legal department, reporting fraudulent activity. A third was a text message to a man named Mark, a retired sheriff's deputy I'd hired for private security, who was currently sitting in his car at the end of the driveway, waiting for my signal. Leo stared at the phone. You're bluffing. Am I? I asked softly. Chloe grabbed my mother's arm. Anna. Tell her to stop. This is insane. It's family. My mother looked not at her, but at me. Her eyes were still wet, but something in them had hardened. Sophia, she said, her voice shaking, but firm. Do what you have to do. That's when Leo's face curdled. He pointed at the door. The same gesture that started all of this. Get the old man out of my chair. I moved between him and my father. My hands were perfectly still. You will not speak to our father that way again, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. And the only person leaving through that door is you. And if you're not packed in 20 minutes, Mark will be happy to assist you. Silence. Thick and absolute. Then Chloe tried one last desperate angle. You're a monster, she hissed. You're tearing this family apart over a house. I finally let out a breath. I am done financing your chaos. That isn't tearing a family apart. That's called a boundary. Leo muttered. We'll see about that. He lunged for the papers on the table, as if ripping them up could nullify a legally filed trust. I simply gathered them and put them back in my briefcase. I turned to my dad. Dad, I asked gently, would you like to sit here? In your living room? In peace. He swallowed hard and nodded. Yes. Then everyone who doesn't live here needs to leave. Nobody moved. Then, the doorbell rang. Mark. Punctual as always. The eviction took 2 hours. Leo and Chloe tried to escalate. But Mark, a calm, 6'4", wall of a man, simply stood by the door and watched them pack. Their performance was pathetic. Chloe made a show of weeping loudly while stuffing clothes into a suitcase. Leo alternated between whispering threats into his phone and yelling about his rights. The kids looked confused and miserable, shuttling toys to the minivan under my steady, silent gaze. I didn't engage. I didn't argue. I just sat at the kitchen table with my mom and made us both a cup of tea. I should have told them no right away, she said, staring into her mug. They just came in so fast, talking about how this would be easier for us. No maintenance for your father. A place for the grandkids. They said they were taking care of us. They were taking care of themselves. I said, the hard parts are the parts that make it yours. She gave a small, sad nod. Dad just sat on the porch, looking out at the water. I thought I'd be stronger, he said, when I joined him. I should have thrown them out myself. You called me? I said. That was the strongest thing you could have done. While they packed, Chloe tried to appeal to me one last time, cornering me in the kitchen. Her face was a mask of wounded sincerity. You know, this is really about you. Sophia, you think money is a substitute for love? You buy things to control people because you don't know how to be a person. I bought a house for our parents. I corrected her, my voice level. I did not buy you an ATM. She flinched. Then her face went hard. You will regret this, she said. I already regret not doing it 10 years ago, I replied. When they finally drove away, the minivan spitting gravel, the silence they left behind was profound. It wasn't empty. It was full of peace. I walked through the cabin, picking up stray juice boxes and a forgotten hair tie. In the guest room, I found a notebook left on the nightstand. Leo had scribbled down numbers, a business plan. He'd estimated rental profits that were wildly optimistic. And in the margin, Chloe had written, if Soph objects, we'll just have Mom cry. She always folds. I closed the notebook and put it in my briefcase. Evidence. That evening, as the sun set over the lake, Dad took my hand. Daughter, he started, his voice thick. I don't know how to thank you without feeling like I failed you both. You didn't fail us, I said. You taught us to be a family. We all just got confused about what that means. We all gave him too much for too long. He nodded. And the truth of it, a small relief. We ate the cheesecake for dinner, right out of the box, on the porch. My phone started vibrating, a furious buzzing. A text from Leo. You made Mom cry. I'll never forgive you. A text from Chloe. Legal action is pending. An email from an address I didn't recognize, with the subject, family betrayal. I turned the phone off and put it away. Before I left, I installed a new security system with cameras. I put the login information in a folder labeled Cabin Info and wrote the password in big, clear letters my dad could read without his glasses. I left copies of the trust, the deed, and the HOA bylaws in a drawer. Boring armor. My mom hugged me at the door. I'm so sorry it had to be like this, she whispered. I'm not, I said. It had to be exactly like this. The next week was a masterclass in manipulation. Leo launched a smear campaign on social media. My rich lawyer sister stole my parents' retirement home to keep it for herself. He posted old family photos, twisting the narrative. Chloe shared articles about elder abuse. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years started sending me concerned, passive-aggressive messages. I wrote one, and only one, response. An email to Leo and Chloe, with our parents' financial advisor, Seaside. It was polite, professional, and glacial. It had 2 points. 1, all future communication regarding the property would go through my office. 2, they were formally notified that they were not to set foot on the property. and any attempt to do so would be considered trespassing. I set up a rule in my inbox to automatically route any email from them to a separate folder. I would not engage in a fight where the only goal was to exhaust me. 2 days later, the real escalation came. My father called. His voice panicked. "Sophia. They're here. They have some kind of paper. A lease. They said we signed it." I had anticipated this. "Dad. Go inside. Lock the door. And don't speak to them. I'm handling it." I dialed Mark, who contacted the local sheriff's department to request a civil standby. Then I accessed the porch camera feed on my phone. There they were. Leo and Chloe, waving a piece of paper at the front door. Leo was shouting. I took a screenshot of the forged document. It was a pathetic attempt, with a signature that looked nothing like my father's. Then I sent them both a text message. It contained the screenshot of their fake lease and a link to the state law regarding felony forgery. I added one sentence. "The sheriff is on his way. I suggest you leave before he arrives." Their car was gone in under 90 seconds. They hadn't just tried to manipulate. They had tried to commit a crime. They had miscalculated. They thought they were in a family argument. I was in a legal battle. And I never lose. The messages stopped. The social media posts vanished. They had finally crossed a line that even they understood was indefensible. 2 weeks later, I drove up to the cabin on a Saturday morning. No emergency. Just a visit. I fixed a loose railing on the porch. I helped my dad hang a bird feeder. Mom made pancakes. And we ate them while talking about the ridiculously aggressive squirrels. No one mentioned my brother. His absence wasn't a hole, it was clean air. After breakfast, my mom put her hand on mine. "I'm going to call him," she said. My heart seized for a second. Not to make up, to tell him that what he did was wrong. And until he can apologize to your father, and to you, he is not welcome here. Dad cleared his throat. "I should have taught him that. I taught you both to work hard. But I never taught him how to be told no." "You taught me to be loyal," I said. "I'm just finally learning that loyalty to the family can't mean disloyalty to myself." Later, sitting alone on the porch, I realized the story Leo would tell. I bought my parents a house and it ruined our family. But that isn't what happened. I bought my parents a sanctuary. And then I defended its borders. I had spent a lifetime mistaking financial support for love. It wasn't. It was just fuel for a fire that was always going to burn out of control. A boundary isn't a wall to keep people out. It's a line that tells them where the door is, and that they are not welcome to burn the house down. A month later, my nephew, who is 16 and mostly communicates in shrugs, I sent me a text. "Hey, the pictures of the cabin look cool. Grandma seems really happy." I typed back instantly. "You should come visit. Ask your grandma. No drama. Just pancakes." He sent back a single emoji, a thumbs up, a small piece of a bridge, built on neutral ground. Last night, after closing a deal that had kept me in the office for 72 hours straight, I drove to the lake instead of my apartment. I didn't go in. I just parked down the street and looked. The lights were on. Through the big window, I could see my dad in his armchair, reading a book. My mom was at the table, working on a puzzle. The house looked warm, safe, and impenetrable. It looked like a gift that had finally been delivered. Here's what I know to be true now. Love is not a blank check. It's not absorbing endless blows because you share DNA. Love is a house with strong locks. Love is the legal paperwork that holds firm when a person's character does not. Love is telling your parents to finally rest, and telling everyone else that you are not their safety net. You are not their emergency fund. And you are not the person who will clean up the mess they deliberately made. I am their daughter. A woman whose job taught her to be precise. A sister who finally realized that precision is not cruelty. Sometimes, it's the purest form of love. If my brother ever wants to stand on that porch, he can. He can come with an apology in his hands, instead of a demand. He can be a son, not a squatter. Until then, the cabin stands. The cameras watch. The lake is quiet. Inside, my parents are at peace. And that is the whole point. A gift should never cost you your own peace of mind. And a boundary is not the end of love. It is the beginning of it. If you agree, share this story. You never know who needs to hear that it's okay to finally lock the door.